hand over to Heleri Rande, who's the Director of Business Development at the Puccini Group. So welcome, Heleri, and I will leave you to chair the session. Thank you.
I'll try to be very millennial about this and use a tablet, although I really prefer pen and paper. So welcome, everyone. My name is Heleri Rande. I am the Director of Business Development for Europe, Middle East, and Africa for Puccini Group. I'm here with Bob Puccini, who you might have seen on stage yesterday. We are in our 20th anniversary year this year, based out of San Francisco, but I work in the London office, but we work really globally around the world. On the panel today, we have a wonderful selection of 4 gentlemen, who I'm very happy to host. I'll briefly just go through their names, and then after I'll give them more chance to introduce themselves. So starting from the far there, we have Gavin Scott, who's the Managing Director of Jumeirah Restaurants Group. Then we have Tim Stanhope, who is the Corporate Director of Food and Beverage for Emaar Hospitality Group. Next, we have Hickox from Galaxy Entertainment. He's the Vice President of Hospitality Development. And last but not least, we have Jon Yantin, who is the Commercial Director for the One Group Europe. The topic for the session today is changing the business model of hotel restaurants. And when you think about what a business model is, it touches so many key points, and hopefully we'll have some viewpoints on that, maybe differing ones, throughout the session today. The reason why we have this conference in the first place is that food and beverage has taken such a priority in strategic decision-making in hotel groups and restaurant groups. And there's been many changes organization-wide driven by these goals. So to kick off this panel, I would like each of you to say what these changes have brought about in your corporations, in your roles, and also give you a chance to introduce yourself. So why don't we start from Russell?
It's probably good afternoon, everybody. As the introduction said, I look after the Jumeirah's restaurant group. For those of you who are local, you'll realize that we broke away from our parent group, which was the hotel group, about 2 years ago, and set up a separate restaurant business, which in itself was quite a major step for this industry. Was quite challenging, as you can imagine. There's a lot of stories and rumors that go with it, and I'm happy to discuss everything with everybody afterwards about the trials and tribulations. But the reality and the key fact of the change is that the property owners are looking now for a bigger return or a greater return on their asset. And so part of the structural change was, how do you get better value for that asset? Previously, the restaurants were big, cumbersome units sitting within a hotel that were there for a service. And in today's day and age, and certainly after 2008, 2009, people have got to start looking at shareholder return and stakeholder return. So we've sort of taken that step of pulling our business out into an independent unit. We pay a lease to the hotel, so we are now tenants, and we compete now within the independent restaurant market. So that's a big, major change in terms of thought process, which is, how do I get investor, shareholder, stakeholder return on the asset that sits within the hotel?
All right, so I'm Tim Stanhope. I'm the Corporate Director of Food and Beverage for Emaar Hospitality. So let me tell you a little about Emaar Hospitality. So we play against a very broad spectrum of outlets, hotels, restaurants, leisure clubs. And they really do range from, obviously, the address downtown, or the address hotels and resorts, Vita Hotels and Resorts, Mansell Hotels and Resorts, and we have a sector which sits under the lifestyle dining. That'd be a little bit similar to the Jumeirah model, where we run from lisseurs to atmospheres. So we play in that high range market of premium restaurants. And then what we do is we have our leisure facilities. So we have the golf clubs, yacht clubs, polo clubs. So we do play against a really different spectrum of supplying demand to customers within the Dubai market. I think from overall, the delivery of what we do is very different to maybe a traditional hotel chain, is that we're delivering different multiple solutions to different customers within Dubai. And I think that's a very successful business model for us. So, thank you.
Right.
I'm probably slightly representing a slightly more unique organization to everybody else on the stage, but we're primarily a casino company and a developer and operator of integrated resorts in Macau, which is where we have our flagship. It's our current sort of flagship project there is about 1 million square meters, which will effectively double, maybe a little bit more over the next sort of 3 years or so. We don't build our own brands necessarily yet. We're not quite as evolved as Russell's team, but certainly something that we're moving towards. We primarily franchise or we lease space. And we incorporate a lot of big international brands. We obviously have a Chinese audience, so we're looking for brands that at the moment they still recognize, they feel comfortable with. We're now looking at evolving to a stage where we can develop our own food and beverage concepts for that particular market. But food and beverage, as most people are probably familiar with now in our world, is really still an amenity as such. And we're looking to try to evolve to a phase where it's not simply an amenity and does justify its space in retail malls or where have you. So that's probably where we're at.
Good afternoon. I'm Jon Yantin, Director of the One Group. The One Group's a British-founded, American-owned, NASDAQ-listed hospitality specialist. We do two things. We have our own international brand, STK, which is now in all the principal primary American cities. We're also in London, we're in Milan, due to open in Ibiza, and then grow that brand globally. And the second thing we do is we are a turnkey, bespoke hospitality solution to hotel asset owners. And in hotel language, we're a flag. We're a hospitality flag. Russell talks about asset, and we concur with that. And Troy just mentioned about amenity, and we concur with that as well. And for us, the changing face in hotel world is differentiation. Hotels really now, a modern hotel will give you great Wi-Fi, it'll give you plug sockets by the side of your bed, it'll give you a lighting panel that you can't turn off the sexy pink lighting properly without calling concierge. And those are pretty much de rigueur. And the question now is, how do you differentiate? And our view of life, and hotel owners' view of life that we talk to, is differentiation comes through spas or comes through F&B. And if you're going to put yourself in that space as an asset owner, where you want to get a return on your asset, the question is, how do you differentiate and how do you create destinations within what you do? And that's what we do. And we specialize in that with lifestyle hotel operators or owners. We currently operate the Gansevoort Hotel in Park Avenue, New York, the W Hotel in Los Angeles, the Me Hotel in London, and the Me Hotel in Milan. And in each of those properties, we're a JV partner. I'm sure that we'll debate as a panel whether it's lease is right or management agreement is right. We don't like to take leases in hotels for reasons we'll get onto later. But that really explains what we do and what we add into the marketplace.
And actually, you touched upon that word I wanted to kind of delve into more, which is differentiation. Everyone these days wants to differentiate. So what makes the F&B space successful within a hotel? What are your views? What have you seen? What changes have you made in the last couple of months, years, now that we are in this space where everyone wants to focus on F&B?
I think the word we use probably has 3 A's in it and an ability. It's about attractability, it's about availability, and it's about affordability. And previously within the hotel network, most things weren't particularly attractive. They were very expensive. They were very difficult to get to. You had to weave your way through a lot of barriers to entry. And I think within Jumeirah, we've broken this down to what makes this attractive and what makes it available to everybody. And I think the difference now in the world is that you want to be able to go somewhere that you know will deliver you the experience at the price and the attraction that you expect it to. And because the high street, which is our competitors, for a better word, or the streets here in Dubai, is competitive to the ultimate of competitiveness. And we have to make sure that we can offer something that will draw you to our property Not that it becomes a special occasion, not that it's seen as very expensive, not that it sits as in the elite area. And we've spent a lot of time, you know, and with great success now, of trying to bring the product back to recognizing what a marketplace is as a general marketplace.
I'm going to flip the coin a little bit from an operational point of view. I mean, you know, obviously this is a restaurant investment, but, you know, I think maybe if we need to take a step back and, you know, at the end of the day, we need to provide a service to our customers, right? And, you know, there's a lot of talk about the investment of restaurants, but it's the people that we feel that supply a demand, and we at Emaar like to think ourselves as customer-centric. We provide a service to our guests, and you know, we employ the right people. You know, there's so much talk about the movement, and especially in the States, there was all this talk about, you know, a lot of staff turnover, and so on, and you know, the retention of staff is key to us. The development of is employing the right people. You know, the people have to deliver the concept. Do we have the right chef? Do we have the right managers in the properties? And you know, and a restaurant is about a passion and delivering that. And, you know, I spoke to some guys earlier, and you know, hospitality is about a passion. You know, the old days of when we were growing up in the kitchens and so on, and you know, maybe sometimes we forget that. Maybe we forget that, you know, people come to our restaurants to experience an experience, you know, and we have to deliver that experience, and that's where it is, and that comes back from, you know, employing the right people, being customer-centric and looking after our guests and making sure our guests leave our restaurant and the follow-up, and how can we nurture that, and I think that's, you know, that sometimes that gets a little bit forgotten. Especially, you know, and maybe we need to take a step back.
And when you say it's forgotten by management, it's forgotten by restaurant owners?
Well, you know, I mean, if we were sitting and we were talking about development of concepts, and you know, and we can have the best concepts in the world, but you need people to deliver it. And that's where, I think that's where Emaar Hospitality, we take a step back and we say, hey, what can we do to enable our guests to have a great experience all the time?
And for that, do you have specific training programs you're using that you're improving?
Yeah,
do you employ people?
Obviously, it's you know, you want to recruit the right people. You have to have a great training program. You know, and it's about monitoring, following up, and you know, getting the right feedback from the guests. You know, the old days when you're looking at you know, you get the guest survey. You know, but if you look now, if you get an Uber, you know. You get like 3 questions. Was the driver good? Did he take you there? And that's simple, and that's all you need to know. You don't need to know so much about a customer, and you know, maybe we make it too difficult for a guest sometimes.
Sure, but I want to go back to differentiation.
Well, can I answer the question first?
Absolutely.
I mean, in simple terms, I think the question was, how do you make restaurants successful in hotels? Don't let hotel operators run your restaurants. And I think that Emaar have shown that, and Russell's organisation have shown that as well. You wouldn't, obviously scale, you wouldn't let a restaurant guy run a hotel with more than, you know, a dozen rooms. It's just bizarre. They're different skill sets. They're different core competencies. Hotel operators get up and they think about their RevPAR, and they think about their ADR, and they think about servicing and housekeeping. And we get up and we think about hospitality. And if you strip back to the truest form of the word, hospitality is being hospitable. It's no different to having a barbecue at home or inviting people to your house for a dinner party. We're just scaling that up. So to cut straight through it, and you have to have a specialist running a specialist area. The next part of it is to make a decision as an asset owner, as a hotel owner, because the ownership's changed, which we all know as well. Hotel companies don't tend to own hotels anymore. It tends to be high net worth, sovereign wealth, funds, etc., etc. And the decision-making process is very, very different, and that's evolved over the last couple of decades. But the next decision, and the word was used before, is the F&B an amenity, or is the F&B a destination? Are you looking to attract outside guests, or are you solely providing the service for the guests that are staying in-house? And those are 2 very different things. And then the final thing as well is, if you're going to make it a destination, it's how far do you push that envelope? How far do you embrace it? Do you want to have your lobby as a welcome bar? Or do you want to have your hotel lobby separate, and do you want to have your destinations with separate street entrances? And there's two extremes, and the London edition does it very, very well. That you come into a hotel, you trip over a pool table, you see a bar, and right at the back somewhere there's the concierge guy, and it becomes apparent it's a hotel. But the flip side is, I was at a place last week and they asked me to look at it, and you know, they've blurred the boundaries so much that it wasn't a meaningful bar experience because there was luggage loaded up in your eye line. So I think as an asset owner, you have to decide if it's an amenity, if it's a destination, and then off the back of that, just how far you want to push it to make it meaningful.
I think a lot of us in this room agree that, you know, F&B is a specialty now, and it should be looked after by people with the right skill set. But I think we're still facing a lot of challenges on that front because hoteliers as such who run hotels and rooms are not very agreeable to have and hand out restaurants to run by someone else. Is that something you've encountered? How do you deal with that problem?
Well, we're getting into the economic side of it now, and it's not necessarily the hotelier or the general manager of the site that necessarily has the strongest voice. I mean, if you go back to, and Russell talks about leases and the separate organisation that takes a lease in a business. You know, we do management contracts. We're no different to a hotel flag, that we will sign up to a term that's parallel to a hotel flag. We will give a minimum guarantee, and we will share success both on sales and EBITDA. So that's a real partnership. Now, what that does for the asset owner, it allows them to leverage their debt. By leveraging their debt, they're allowed to invest. Obviously, we look for them to put the capital contribution in, but it's easier for them to do so because you've got a promise from a company that's, you know, going to stand good on its word. So that whole cycle, that whole circle has to work together. We don't like to take leases in hotels because we feel it compromises the guest experience. Because ultimately, if we're there and we have to pay our rent, and we decide it's, you know, £2 hot dog and half a pitcher of margarita night, it's going to compromise the guest experience. Where if we go in as a JV partner, we're working in tandem with the hotel owner and the operator of the hotel, because it's a three-way triangle. You end up then creating a destination, and you end up then creating the point of differentiation. You know, our flagship operation is the Me Hotel in London on the Aldwych. It has 157 keys. We run effectively 5 different cost centres of F&B in there. We run a destination STK steakhouse, a standalone Italian restaurant called Asalina. We've conceptualised probably London's coolest rooftop bar called Radio, and then we run the amenity programme, the banquets programme as well. But all of those outlets, with the exception of the lobby bar and conference and banqueting, they all have separate street entrances. So you wouldn't necessarily know you're in a hotel, and the ownership of that hotel took a view at stage of development to create a F&B destination, which in time then kicks into increasing ADR. If the only way you can get a table in Radio on a Saturday night is to take a bedroom, then that's going to increase and add value and add value. And it's very similar to what Inschrager did in the 90s in New York. But that mentality now seems to have come full circle. And if we were at a hotel conference, it's all anyone wants to talk about, is the changing face of hospitality in hotels. And it's interesting that we're at a restaurant conference and it's really the only topic we're talking on, time we're talking about topic.
I think, can I just jump? I think, you know, it really does depend on, you know, how serious that hotel chain does take hospitality, right, or does take food and beverage. You know, and sure, there's other chains that maybe don't take it so serious and are unable to deliver, but, you know, that's the key to it, is the seriousness. We take it serious, and you know, it seems to work at this stage. So, you know, you know, it's just, it depends on like for like, I guess. So. Not that I'm saying it's
I think it's different as well. I mean, your organisation has recognised the specialist need for that space and carved it out, as has Jumeirah. But others still feel that the expertise of a hotel organisation could influence and run that F&B. And, you know, we use an analogy that the dwell time of a guest in a hotel is far, far greater than the dwell time of a guest in a restaurant or a bar. You know, it's 36, 48 hours in a hotel, and in a bar restaurant, you're lucky if it's 2 or 3 hours. So the ability to impact that experience, you've got to be quicker, and you've got to be, your decision-making process has got to be quicker, and that's you know, that's part of management. And I think those two very different extremes. A hotel manager would sit down and buy coffee and chat and talk to the guest and talk about pillows, whereas an F&B manager would buy a glass of champagne and onwards, because you've got to turn that table, because you've only got a short dwell time. And two very, very different skill sets that can work well together.
And that's it. Hoteliers used to build restaurants basically to cater primarily to an in-house audience. And I spend most of my time on the road now looking at new hotels and new restaurants. And obviously what we've seen is that when we have an outside operator, there's, aside from greater creativity because they specialize in what they do, they think less about that in-house guest. They're thinking about how to draw a bigger audience from the neighborhood, from the community. And for us as a casino, that's fantastic because we make our money in foot traffic moving through the casino. So rather than now catering to the in-house casino guests, and we had 4,000 rooms, we'd like to draw another 10,000 from outside into the casino floor by creating destination dining, by creating interesting retail, other attractions, that sort of stuff. So that's probably a huge evolution. And we're not quite as evolved as these guys here, but we're going that way.
Yesterday when we kind of had a little bit of a small recap of what we're going to talk about, Russell, you mentioned there's been quite a lot of changes within the restaurants within the group. If you could talk about these a bit more of what changes you've made and what works, what doesn't.
The interesting thing is actually going back to what John was saying is it's the brain thought process of F&B versus restaurateur. You know, if you have an F&B brain, you're thinking about the whole hospitality bit, the coffee, the drink, the talking to customers. If you want to drive the restaurant market, you have to have a restaurateur's head on, and it is about covers turn. It's about how your restaurant is utilized, how you take bookings, how you get people to come to your restaurant that aren't in your hotel. So, you know, let's just give some examples. I mean, we've just fortunately won a great award of Best Newcomer of the Year for a concept called The Hyde. It sits in Alcázar, which is our proudest and grandest five-star hotel out on the beach. It sits downstairs, hidden away. That's why there was a play on the hide, because potentially it was hiding away. You know, when it started life, it was a five-star luxury hotel steakhouse, which really just was gifted with the presence of people coming from the hotel and who was traveling there to go to it. We set out when we redeveloped it to actually make it more accessible, a little bit more vibrant, and unquestionably not hotel. And if you have the opportunity to go, I'd recommend you go, because there is an element of irreverence, and I think that's the word that my hotel colleagues would use with me, is there's no name badges, there's no formulas. We did service, we took hospitality and worked on the fact that kitchen staff and wait-on staff work together as a family. They're not separate brigades, they shouldn't be isolated. So the chefs and everybody sit down, eat together. The whole family feel is what we tried to generate. And it took some time for people to get to understand what we'd created, but it is a casual, affordable, attractable place where people work in today's world. Now, not everybody can do that, that's for sure, but the reality is that the markets of restaurants are changing quicker than anywhere. And I think there has to be an element of, if you can't do this yourself, then find somebody in the world that can do it and can do it better. So there was an element for us which is, we're very proud, great company, very proud of what we do. We shouldn't be actually having to ask somebody else to do it for us. But there are some fantastic restaurant groups and fantastic concepts out there that we should be looking at. And we should be bringing into some of our concepts and some of our spaces to actually help generate enthusiasm and energy within our hotel business. So there, you know, there's a little mindset change there, which is, firstly, you've got to accept that somebody else can probably do it better and generate more enthusiasm than you can. That relates to foot flow, people interested, people coming. You know, I'll give you an example that we have again. If you stay in Emirates Towers, we've got a great concept called La Canteen that's gone in there. You know, it is completely on a leasehold. It's completely invigorated what was quite a business hotel. It has an immense amount of vibrancy and energy. And in the past, it would never have been dreamed of because we would have tried to have done that ourselves. On the other side, we have to come up with a set of restaurants that meet all destination needs. So everybody thinks that five-star luxury hotels should only do fine dining. And those of you in the audience who have worked with me and know me know that I have a concept called Pier Chic, which is a long pier, sits in the middle of the beautiful Arabian Sea, has the best views of the Burj Al Arab, and wins most romantic restaurant every year. And that's like the worst award in my head that I could ever get, because the reality is I could probably put a Starbucks there and have the most romantic Starbucks in the world. But the reality is we have to work to get the food genre, seafood, as the leader. So I've challenged everybody in our business to get seafood. Let's be the best at seafood. We got a highly commended this year. Next year we hope we get the prize. But it's romantic, it's beautiful, it's the best setting. But customers need to realize it does the best food. Top end. The other end, we have a concept called Noodle House, which has been going for a very, very long time. It is our casual, premium casual Asian brand that a hotel operator generated. We tried to 5-star it. I remember when I took it over a while back, it had Villeroy Bosch crockery in something that I was expecting to have paper plates and ceramic in. So we have to sort of like take away this whole hotel 5-star, bring it back to what people expect. They expect a good price and great food. And finally, because I'm ranting a little bit, we forget that food is the #1 thing we're in business for. Again, first meetings, when I first came over, people talked to me about plates. What plates should we have? How many plates should we have on the table? What should the table look like? But in reality, customers don't eat plates, unless that's a trend for the future. We have to get back, and I think we've said it here, chefs cooking, quality of food, making the food the real winner, followed by the service. And that's, as a separate business to a hotel company, what we can offer, because we can think like a restaurateur. How do I get people to sit on my seat 3, 4, or 5 times a day?
Can I add to that? Sorry. I don't think it's just about the food.
That was my question. I wanted to say, I want all your opinions too. Is it only about the food?
No. I think it's, we operate bars as well, and I'm going to put bars in that space. It's the experience, it's the vibe, it's the program, it's the music. Tim made a really good point. We were talking about it before. There's been lots of talk about brand and concept and lots of beautiful pictures of empty restaurants. But it's about people. And even when it's about people, when you get served in a restaurant, whether it's operated by a hotel or whether it's operated by a hospitality specialist, the waiter, the server doesn't come up to you and tell you his CV and where he studied and his credentials. He says, "Hi, this is who I am. Welcome to wherever. Can I take your order? And let's talk about some specials." And, in that moment, it's that moment. And in that 2-minute window of time, he's selling to you. And the music's got to be right, the lights have got to be right, you've got to have good-looking people either side of you, you've got to feel like a rock and roll star in that window of time. Now, that is a whole recipe. It's no different to cooking a plate of food, You don't just talk about the fish or the steak, you talk about all of the components.
Holistic.
It's got to be holistic.
It's a total synergy of everything, it's the chef, basically it's everything that the synergy of that food and beverage concept has to work, and that's the secret to it, right?
Yeah, see, I would disagree totally, because I don't go back for the music if the food's rubbish, and I've just spent big bucks for it. So, seriously, and I think that's a little bit of the challenge, which is a lot of people think it is about the design, it's about the carpet and everything, but if the food is rubbish and you paid top dollar, you don't go back. You might go back if it's got great-looking people in it and you just want to be with great-looking people. But all of us in this room have not gone back to a restaurant that was probably fabulously designed with great staff if the food is rubbish. Most of us have probably gone, that's really disappointing because I thought this was going to be great. And actually, you then look at the price and go, that was seriously expensive for pretty average. So I'm with you in terms of the whole ambience when it works collectively, but the hero, and if you're talking about bars, if I'm in a bar, then it has to have the best cocktail, the best delivery, the best product, get that ambience. But when I'm in a restaurant, I pay for food. Because I went to Heston Blumenthal's Fat Duck when he reopened it about 2 months ago. He had a grey ceiling, grey walls, grey carpet, grey everything, a few spotlights, and I didn't spend any time looking at anything about the decor because the food on the table was what the entertainment, what the product was.
Well, that's a pure restaurant experience. We're talking more holistically about, it's not just the food.
Get that, but it's your point about food, not...
I think the degrees of importance vary according to the concept.
Absolutely.
So,
And location. But I think it's really driven by the concept of what you're there for. We'll take questions in one moment, but I want to just ask one question before that, something you touched about, the family feel and chefs. On one side, we have a big chef shortage in many countries. On the other side, not everyone can be a celebrity chef. So how do you tackle that? How do you give ownership to the chef in the restaurant when not everyone can be a celebrity? But at the same time, you want them to take the ownership so that you'll have a better working machine in the end.
Well, I think it depends. And again, it depends. Is the chef at the center of your brand? Is the chef at the center of your guest experience or not? If they are, then fine. That's your fat duck example. That's your open kitchen, slap bang in the middle of the room example. If your chef isn't, then remove him from the situation because you're in a different part of the business. An STK will do 600 covers a night. Now, the chef is a very different style of chef as opposed to a fat duck chef who's doing 60 covers a night. So one has to make a decision within the concept and the positioning of what you're trying to sell and take revenue and profit off. Is the chef at the center or is the chef not at the center? In our businesses and what we do, it's about the holistic piece. So the food on the plate is just as important as the music, as the lights, as the sexy girl and guy serving you and the table next to you and the design. So we don't put the chef at the center. Others would do differently.
I think one of the, we're talking all about restaurants, but, if we were talking about hotels, right, and being a past chef myself, you have many aspects to the overall delivery in a hotel. Your classic hotel, you've got your all-day dining, you've got your bar, you've got maybe one signature restaurant. Your all-day dining restaurant 3-meal period, it's going to be full for breakfast. What do you do for lunch and dinner? And that's something that we're really trying to address and creating a new concept for delivery in our hotels is, that space is usable for those 3-meal periods, and it just doesn't sit empty for breakfast. And that's something that we believe is a success to hospitality in hotels, right? Is creating experiences and not having this big empty restaurant that sits lunch and dinner empty, right?
Well, there's some debate over the value of the Michelin Guide, and we have certainly Michelin star restaurants with celebrity chefs. The majority of our Michelin-rated restaurants actually don't have celebrity chefs. And I think what makes it sustainable is actually having a team. We're having a chef that we've actually worked with together, we've grown with together, we've taken some ownership of what's on the menu. We're making him also the hero of what's going on. And we're building pride in the team that's around him, but not just in the kitchen, but on the restaurant floor. And that helps also build that sort of holistic experience of how the food is not just created and prepared, but how it's served, how it's explained to the guest. So I don't know that celebrity chefs necessarily are a magic pill.
Well, I think it really depends on the strength of the brand and the concept that you install into it. You go to many great restaurants in the world and, you don't know who the chef is, right? I mean, the brand is a brand, right?
It's quite interesting about chefs. There's twofold. I think, firstly, we rely on celebrity chefs because we haven't developed core chef skills within our industry, and we're as fault as anybody, but the core skills of being a chef and coming through and developing, we as a whole industry need to look at and actually start developing. I think there's an element here of, designer chefs, for a better word, that, I always struggle going to a restaurant where the designer chef isn't there. And I think one of the keys for me is that when the designer chef's there, everything's fabulous. I always go to that restaurant 3 months later when they've left to actually see whether they've been able to continue the standards that were set from the designer chef. And it's a hard one. And Mark Blazer was here yesterday, and you sort of, the core key people aren't brands, don't go selling the brand. They keep true and faithful to what they are, which is their expertise. So there's pros and cons. If it's a great name and it's a celebrity and you just want to boost the ethos, that's great. I struggle sometimes with the quality you get when the name's gone. I think as an industry, we have to get better, actually getting the skill set and specializing in chefs and growing chefs. And I think it's a weakness. We take it for granted. I don't think in this world of social media and all the things you want to do that chefing is top of the list. I probably want to be an app designer. I probably want to be a web designer. I probably want to be something because that's where allegedly I'm going to make my money. So as an industry, we have to get back to developing and creating an environment to develop that skill. And then finally, one of the things when we took over and separated this business, I have genre of restaurants. I have a Chinese restaurant, I have an Italian restaurant. Within the Chinese restaurant, Italian restaurant, I did not have Chinese chefs or Italian chefs. And that was beyond me. To actually get authentic food and get reality, I need somebody that really understands. So to have somebody that come from Papua New Guinea cooking Chinese was a little bit lost on me. So, we've spent a lot of time trying to find the people that understand the food genre to cook the food genre with a lot of success. And, we changed a concept called Toscana to Trattoria Toscana down in the souk. And that food has a lot better feel of rustic Italian trattoria than it did a year ago. And that's purely because we put people in there that understood Italian food rather than people that were just following a recipe. So I think collectively, chefs can work for you, but honestly, I think you have to grow your own and get the talent within your own business as quick as possible.
I don't think it's I know we're pushed for time. I don't think it's just about chefs. It's about a personality. We heard yesterday about Nusret, and he's in the room and he's doing his thing. We talk about bars, and we talk about a great head barman, a head bartender. Talk about Salvatore Calabrese in London. It's about a personality. Now that personality in a hotel would be the general manager, and it would have someone that's got presence and someone that's adding value to the guest experience. In a bar, it would be a head bartender that's engaging with you and doing something a bit different. On the floor of a restaurant, it would be just as equally your Nusrat, your character, your owner, your guy on the floor, your host, or your chef coming out and chatting at the table. You don't have to make the chef the hero. You have to make the chef a component that becomes accessible if it's correct for your business. That's value, absolutely.
And I know we're all getting very hungry because it's getting close to lunchtime, so we'll take one or two questions. This would be mics going around. Right here in the front, Jennifer.
Hi, my name's Sanj. I'm from TripAdvisor. I've heard TripAdvisor being mentioned a few times previously. I'll be happy to take any kind of questions if anyone has it during lunch. I remember being in Dubai about 8 years ago. I used to spend a bit of time in Dubai, and it was quite obvious then that hotels were very keen to tap into people who are very promiscuous in terms of their dining habits, and the idea of hotels wanting to keep people in their hotels for drinks, for food, for entertainment. And at the time, I can remember that people used to be very, or used to have a lot of social currency because of how they'd use BlackBerry and how many contacts they'd have on their BlackBerry. This was before social media was becoming popular. I'm just wondering how the panel really tap into the birth or the growth of bloggers and people who are very influential in Dubai. Meaning, if you can tap into those people to come to your hotels and to come to your restaurants, the idea is that they would then encourage their network to also follow them.
Can I go first? I hate TripAdvisor. It costs us time, it costs us money, it costs us management. For every 10 negatives, you might get one positive. 9 of the negatives are the guys that didn't want to let it in the first place. I'm joking, but it's a new world and it's a new dawn. I mean, the reality is, at the very, very core of it, you're inviting people into your home on a great scale, and you're trying to serve them food and drink and be convivial and have a great ambiance. Now, unfortunately, there was a study actually that came out recently that in America, it takes longer to get an order off someone than it did 3 or 4 years ago. There's something on, you can Google it and find it. And the reality is you can't turn a table. And if you can't turn a table as quickly, then you're not going to get as much revenue in. And the whole reason for it is people, the waiter comes over and people are going, just give me a minute, I'm just checking in. You ready for your order? I'm just taking a photo of my shoes. I mean, let us do what we do and be hospitable. So if I had my way, I'd just lock the whole, you come in and it wouldn't work. There'd be a fake ashtray and it would block all the signals. Because I think there's one thing to review and share, and the social aspect of it is good, but it does affect the dynamic of the room as well. And it affects the dynamic of the room, it affects our turn, it affects our revenue, etc. So you can influence it, you can use it. It's a new skill set, it's a new dawn. We talked a lot about the millennials. We talked about, it's a, are you going to be a practical skills kind of guy or girl going into chefing world, or are you going to be, a new world of technology and going to get there? So yeah, if you look at a marketing department now of a restaurant or a hotel or a bar organization, you will see the social media department. And they are focused on ensuring that the rankings are right in TripAdvisor and Revenue and Facebook and the whole gamut. So it's a new dawn.
I think just to add that those people who work here in the UAE and the GCC, yeah, it is huge. It is huge. This is how business is done. People do take their photographs, they do Instagram, they do Facebook before they've even ordered you. You're quite right. It does take a lot of brain power up to actually keep control of everything that's going on. But the reality is that is where it is. Now, you have to have the influencers, you have to have the people with the followers, you have to have people that have got some influence in the neighborhood. I think life is changing a little bit now because some of those key influencers are now almost doing paid marketing, advertising. So the reality and the truthfulness of what their blog or what they're saying is now seems to be sort of like dipping a little bit because they're getting paid by somebody to say this, or they've been influenced, they've got advertising now on their blog. You know, it is the way of the world. It does take a lot. You're right, you know, we spend an awful lot of time just doing the negatives because it's so quick to post the negative and you've got to respond to the negative. However, if you get it right, it's sensational.
I think, sorry.
Go on.
I just think one of the, we were going to talk about the millenniums, right? And, you know, to be honest, and I have two teenage daughters, you know, I think the Snapchats and the Instagrams from a customer point of view, especially from that younger generation, that's where it's at, you know, and no disrespect to TripAdvisor, but is it really the foodies that are looking at TripAdvisor? Is it more a hotel, let's check a hotel? Is it you know, postings on Instagram for the younger generation that, hey, look at that, that's cool, you know, yeah. Snapchat, do they send it to their friends? And that's where I think it is, especially for food and beverage point. Instagram, you know, is huge, where TripAdvisor is, sure, it's fantastic for rating hotels, but does it really say much about a restaurant? I don't know.
And on that note, we are finished. We will be all around lunchtime if you have more questions then, but thank you everyone, thank you panelists. Hope you had something nice to hear.